Hello, friends, and welcome to a special edition of the Kings of Anglia podcast, the late night, the after dark edition. You can maybe hear that clock ticking in the background. That's just told us the transfer window has shut for January. It's slammed shut, of course, and the four Kings are here to talk all about it with this late night special edition. I'm your host, Mark Heath. I'm trying to do my best late night DJ voice. I'm joined by three other Kings, of course: Andy Hutch Warren, Stuart the Dr. Watson, and Ross the Prospect Halls. And I'm going to start first of all with you and Stewie Hutchie. It's been another busy day. We're not really used to this at Ipswich Town. Traditionally, nothing really happens at Ipswich Town on deadline day. But it's been another busy one. Do you want to just bring us up to speed with what has actually happened today, and we can get into talking about it?
Are you going to do this voice the whole way through?
I'm not deliberately doing a voice. I'm in a situation where, as I think we all are actually, we might as well set these ground rules out. I've been told to keep the noise down. I'm in the office, the wife's office. I'm not normally in here. Obviously, the wife's in bed, dog's asleep. I'm trying not to make too much noise. I appear to be doing some kind of odd voice. Anyway, I'll try and stop that. Hutchie, tell us what's happened today.
Okay, it's been a day of outgoings, which is what we were expecting. So Scott Fraser's the headline. He's joined Charlton for a fee of around 500 grand. Hayden Coulson's loan from Middlesbrough has been terminated. He's gone to Peterborough. John Nolan's contract has been terminated, and he's walking the streets as a free agent. Rakim Harper has gone out on loan. He's gone to Crewe. 3 more loans for young players, with Bailey, Clements, Ben Morris, and Matt Healy going to Stevenage GAIS in Gothenburg, Sweden, and Cork City, respectively. And there has been one signing, Nick Hayes, a former academy goalkeeper who's been away, done a few turns elsewhere, and is back. So yeah, the 22-year-old goalkeeper is signed. That's as exciting as it got for incomings, but a fair few outgoings.
Excellent. Thank you, Hutchie. That's a superb précis. Stuart, you've covered town for more than a decade now. As I say, back in the day, nothing ever happened on deadline day. Certainly making up for it now. The main talking point would be Scott Fraser departing. Really split opinion, that one. So let's start there. Scott Fraser leaving town, signing for Charlton, 500k. What do we make of this one? Good or bad?
Time will tell, I guess, in terms of what Scott Fraser goes on to do. I can see both sides of the argument on this one. It just never got off the ground for Scott Fraser, did it? I think when you sign 19 different players in one window, the probability is that some aren't going to come off. Fraser and Rakim Harper, who I'm sure will come on to fall within that bracket so far. There is a sense of kind of what if, because he clearly is a very good football player at this level. He's proven that over a period of time at both Burton and MK Dons. And we never really got to see the best of him, really. Paul Cook didn't play him in his best position. He's number 10 is his favoured role. We've seen him play mainly wide left, a little bit of wide right. He played in a deeper midfield role at one stage as well. But it was difficult to see where he was going to fit in. Part of me feels that he would have been quite suited to Kieran McKenna's sort of 1-2 touch style of football that we've seen so far. But Selina, Chaplin, Aluko, all kind of ahead of him in the pecking order for those attacking midfield positions. So Ipswich have got their money back. I think they've even turned a small profit on it. So sometimes you just have to wipe your nose and move on from some of these, except that, wrong timing all round, and might just give Kieran McKenna a bit of wriggle room when the summer comes around financially.
On that note, Hutchie, we understand they've actually made a bit of money on Fraser, don't we?
Yeah, not a huge amount, but yeah, they've certainly at least kind of retained his value. Purely speculating from my part, but I feel sure that there would have been a structured deal in place with MK Dons in the summer, given that he's only been here 6 months and only played 20 games. He's not going to have hit any of those markers to put the clauses in and pay sort of top ups or anything like that. So Obviously that wouldn't have happened, but yeah, they've managed to get a good fee out of Charlton, who have become Scott Fraser's fourth League One club in not an awful lot over 18 months. 2 years kind of spans from Burton to MK to Ipswich to Charlton is a bit of a League One yo-yo for him. I think I'm okay with it. I can see why they've done the deal. He's not been playing. He's not. We don't know where he's at in McKenna's kind of pecking order. He's been injured under McKenna, but he's never found his role. We've seen flashes of him being a good player, but I wouldn't go as far as saying that we've seen him dominate games. So for a player that is on the fringe of things, the time is now to move him on, because if you don't move him on now, you're going to lose that. You're going to lose that value. So now, if you're going to do it, you may as well do it. We'll talk about John Nolan in a bit, but he's maybe a bit of an example of why you do that, because ultimately, if you look at sort of players like him, Caden Jackson, players that you have money on the table for, don't take it. All of a sudden, you get yourself in a situation where they lose their value, contracts run down, and you end up losing them for free. So I think to get it done sooner rather than later. Obviously, it's a long way off for Fraser, but just if you don't think he's going to fit, don't drag the process out. Get it done. Everybody's happy.
And also, I think if, again, a bit of speculation on our behalf here, but Scott Fraser didn't look particularly happy to me in the latter stages. I think people have commented that he looks happier at his Charlton signing pictures than he ever did during his time at Ipswich. And if a player has intimated that they wouldn't mind a fresh challenge, and this just isn't working out for me, football-wise, location-wise, whatever it is, then I don't think it's ever wise to keep a player that's not sort of, their heart's not in it. So if that was the case with Scott Fraser, then that also makes sense as well. But you know, Andy makes a good point. Sometimes just if you can get your money back at this juncture, and is it worth sort of we'll see. He might come good, and then 6 months, a year goes by, and it's still not happening. You kind of think actually at the time to do it was then. So yeah. Same as Andy, really. I think ultimately, giving it a bit of thought, I'm probably happy with it as well, or comfortable with it.
We can all sit here and we can see a scenario, can't we, where Scott Fraser goes to Charlton and is a success, because we've seen enough from him to know that he's a good football player. He's been a success at Burton. He's been a success at MK Dons. There's every chance he'll go to Charlton and be a success. But we've seen from loads of players in the past, but that doesn't mean that he would have been a success here if he'd hung around for another 6 months, not getting in the team. So for me, it's one I think it's good for everyone that they've done it, and I think we just have to accept that he may well do some good things at Charlton, but it could also be a good thing for Ipswich. Obviously, there'll be a sense of what might have been, because we know he's a talented football player. He's got a lot of skill, but if it's not happening, get off the pot and move on.
Roscoe, we had a chat earlier today about this very subject. I got some fan reaction for a piece online, and certainly looking at that, although obviously it's a small sample size, I would say that the reaction has been tipping towards the bad move from Town, and that was your argument earlier with Fraser, wasn't it? You were upset to see him go. I must also say, for those who are not watching the video, Ross looks like he's about to drop the sickest freestyle of 2022. He's come as Eminem with his hood up. What do you make of Fraser?
This is gonna be my title track on my new album, "Bite Us in the Butt," because I think that is what's going to happen with Scott Fraser. Charlton, last game of the season, could that be a decider for us to get in the playoffs? Probably not, after the Sheffield Wednesday result. But yeah, a little bit disappointed, but I agree with the lads. Maybe we just got to accept that it's probably the right time for him to move, instead of him just sitting around, not really getting to the team, and just got an unhappy player who just wants to play games. And yeah, it's a shame, but here we go. We made a profit on him. Move on.
Yeah, it's not impossible for players to turn their careers round at certain football clubs. I guess Janoy Danassian is a prime example of that at Ipswich. There are others as well. But I think I said this recently on a podcast. It does feel sometimes that a certain pathway is set in those opening 5, 10, 15 games of a player at a new club. And when Scott Fraser didn't convert his penalty at Burton at such a crucial moment, a player who had scored virtually every penalty he'd ever taken, I think, at MK Dons, it just starts to feel as time goes by that things aren't happening. And then it became a thing that when is he going to get some game time at number 10 and what role does he play? So it felt like it had been heading down this track for some time with Scott Fraser.
I think he's going to be a really good fit for Charlton because they play with 3 central midfielders. As much as we talk about him as a number 10, I think he could do his best work as on the left of the midfield 3, a central 3, where you can drift off it and attack. He is. I remember watching a lot of Johnny Jackson playing the Charlton manager. He is the spit of Johnny Jackson as a football player. Left foot, move the ball around, can shoot, can get into the box. I think it could be great for him. But I do think that it's a good move, an okay move for Town at this time, because I just don't see where he's getting in this team. I just can't see a route into the team for him.
Is it showing this kind of new decisiveness as well that we seem to be getting with the game changer guys, in that they've gone, right, it's not worked, we can make our money back, maybe get a bit of profit, let's do it, let's pull the trigger, Stewie?
Yeah, possibly. Going back to what Andy said, sometimes decisiveness is the right way, because I think Andy used the example of Hayden Jackson, where Ipswich had, well, what were the offers for Hayden Jackson? We were talking, what was the money?
£2.5 million.
Yeah, so they could have made a profit on Hayden Jackson. And to be fair, I think at the time we were all a bit bemused that they didn't take that. But that was, when was that last? I'm trying to lose track what window that was. But, that ship very quickly sailed, as Andy said. So sometimes you just have to do it. Okay.
Fraser, clearly the headline departure today. Shall we shoot through the rest of them? Take one each, maybe. Hutch, you want to start with you? John Nolan,
yeah, and then there were 2. I've got the 6 kind of Paul Hurst permanent signings here of Ellis Harrison, Hayden Jackson, Gwion Edwards, John Nolan, Toto Nsiala, Janoy Donasian, Just Donasian, and Jackson Standing. That's £6 million worth of football player there, and 4 of them have left for nothing. Essentially, Jackson's got a few months left of his deal there. Donasian kind of might be the last man standing of those come the summer, but I kind of got similar feelings to this one, to Scott Fraser. Stu and I were talking earlier about the good spells that John Nolan's had. He's had some really good spells, hasn't he? He scored goals. He's got 1 in 7 from central midfield for Ipswich. That's not terrible. Ipswich have had strikers with worse runs than that. Really tidy player, tenacious, good turning circle, neat on the ball, quite clever with it. Once he got a bit of confidence going, he could get into the box and can score goals. So a real shame that injuries have ultimately done for him, because we've not seen him for a year, Stu. And like, when a year's gone by and you've not seen someone on the pitch, it kind of points towards something needing to change for them.
Right, and Stu, Rakim Harper, another midfielder. I can't believe I'm actually saying this. Rakim the Dream Harper has gone on loan to Crewe. Those 2 things do not necessarily make good bedfellows, but it's happened. What do you make of it?
It has, yeah. I've seen a bit of discussion from West Brom fans on social media today, sort of saying, for those of, there was a genuine debate amongst West Brom fans as to whether they would regret letting Rakim Harper go, a player who was seen as having big potential there. He'd had a very brief taste of Premier League football, certainly a decent run of Championship football when they got promoted. And it was seen as a real coup for Ipswich, wasn't it, back in the summer when they got him? People were talking about, well, if we've sold Andre Dizelle for £1 million and picked up Rakim Harper for about half of that, £500,000, that was seen as really good business. But another one where it's just not happened for him. He was the regular starter for the first 6, 7, 8 games. It sort of coincided with that winless run, and has just faded further and further from the picture. Obviously, other players have arrived. I think when you get repurposed as a different type, a different position quite early on. There's alarm bells ringing. He'd been signed as sort of this number 6 box to box type, number 8, and then all of a sudden he was being used as sort of just behind the strikers and come on and help us see out games as an impact number 10. And so yeah, of all the signings last summer, he's been the one that's probably fallen shortest of expectation and has underwhelmed the most. I feared where they would be able to place him loan-wise this window. And he said, I think in a tweet earlier, that this is probably about the best sort of club they could have got him to, really. They've kept him in League One at this level. I think he would have probably had reservations about dropping down another level. Ipswich wouldn't have wanted him to go to a rival club in League One, and Kieran McKenna has talked about him wanting to go somewhere where the manager and the style of football is the right fit. And I think David Artell and the way Crewe try and play tick those boxes. So hopefully he can go there and help Crewe bloody the noses of a few of the promotion rivals over the next 6 months, and he comes back a better, more all-rounded, stronger player for Ipswich. We'll see.
It has been noted, by the way, admin from Crewe, because you clearly listen to the podcast. You've used my nickname in the announcement there of Rakim the Dream Harper signing for Crewe. Noted. My people will be in touch. Roscoe, Hayden Coulson.
Who? He was here and then he was gone. 6 games in total, weren't it? And he's gone and joined Peterborough. So he's a player that perfectly fitted what Paul Cook liked, what McKenna likes, but injuries, unfortunately, has hampered his time at the club. And his last appearance was at the Wickham game. He came off, he subbed off like the 20th minute or so, because he went down. And yeah, once again, what could have been with Hayden Coulson. And of course, when Dominic Thompson signs, you straight away go, yeah, he's going to be leaving. And he's found a move to the Championship with Peterborough. Maybe a better move for him, for Middlesbrough's point of view. They'll be thinking, oh, he's going to be playing Championship football. Of course, they'll be fighting relegation. But just one of those players that'll be on a long list of, played a few games. That was it.
And just finally, Hutchie, I suppose, just finishing off the list in terms of notable names today. Bailey Clements had a run in the side earlier this season, most unexpected under Paul Cook. He's gone out on loan to Stevenage, which seems to me to be a pretty decent move for him in terms of getting him some football at a decent level.
He just needs to play, whether that leads to him finding a new home, a full-time home elsewhere. I think his contract is up in the summer, from memory. Who knows? But he's had that little taste this year. I think actually of those three, the one that interests me the most is Ben Morris, because he's gone to Sweden. We've seen Harry Wright and Aaron Drinan go there before, but Ben Morris is a player I've always really liked the look of. He's had a horrible time with injuries, 2 really nasty cruciate ligament injuries in his knee. He's a really nice player from what I've seen of him before, both in the first team and in the under-23s. So if he can get some regular football, I like that loan move for him because the season runs over the summer. So I think that's why that loan works for him, because he is basically going to get a full season with them before coming back potentially October, November time. So if he's going to do something and maybe earn an extended stay at Ipswich, he's going to have a chance to do it over a longer period of time rather than just having kind of 3 months worth of football going into him. So that one, probably of those three, interests me the most. I hope he can get back playing.
If he can copy what the man Drizzy has done, he'll be a happy boy indeed.
So the route from here is you do that for a bit, you come back and be incredibly involved in a first team setup. At some point, you're the only striker available for Ipswich Town, and then you end up going and getting a good move to League Two. That's the path that maybe we're on here then. And
you rip it up in League Two.
Then you get a shirt on your wall. The ultimate honour.
That is the path. Right then, boys. So that's what's happened today. Let's look at the window as a whole, shall we? Because I've seen some gnashing of teeth on ITFC social media today, suggesting it's been a thoroughly underwhelming window, and Town haven't done enough. Clearly today it has been all been about departures. If we look at the window as a whole, though, in terms of incomings, arrivals, Christian Walton signed a permanent deal. Macaulay Bonne has been extended for the rest of the season. There was some worry that he may get recalled to QPR. They brought Dominic Thompson in to fill that left-sided need. They've got Tariq Backinson in midfield, which was kind of unexpected. And also Tyree Simpson's obviously come back in a kind of unusual contractual dispute. And obviously, in terms of the other departure we've talked about, on top of that, we've got Toto Enciala and a bunch of players gone out on loan. Louis Barry's obviously gone back. Thomas Holy's gone out on loan. Miles Kenlock is also out on loan. Stewie, window as a whole wise, I think I've said several times on the pod, if we'd have said at the start of January that in this window, Ipswich Town will sign Christian Walton, they'll secure Macaulay Bonne to at least the rest of the end of the season, and they'll add someone to strengthen that left-hand side, which we all knew was a weakness, that would be a pretty good window. So now as we sit here with the window having slammed shut, how do you assess it? And would you like to give it an overall grade, as I've just done online?
Let me have a little think about the grade. Overall, I think you're right. If you'd have painted this picture a few weeks ago, most people would have been pretty happy with that. When there was people forget how much uncertainty there was surrounding Bonne and Walton. Everyone gets a bit caught up in the excitement of transfer deadline day, and I've seen a fair bit of disappointment on social media today because everyone likes new shiny things, don't they? But I think January is a bad time to do business in general. I bet if you went through not just Ipswich January business, which hasn't been, been a lot more misses than hits over the years. That's probably the same for most clubs because players are available mid-season for a reason. They've come back from injuries or they're not getting game time. So I think sometimes clubs do things because they can rather than because they should. And you've got to get players that are going to improve you, or at least stand a very good chance of improving you. And if you can't get those players, then don't do it. Hold your nerve. And I think people have forgotten very quickly how good a piece of business signing Christian Walton is. You know, they've signed a championship level goalkeeper in League One. And just because he's already been in the building for 6 months, he doesn't feel like a new signing, but he is a signing. They've signed him permanently. Bonne, yes, the goals have dried up a little bit recently, but, you know, remind yourself how worried you felt going back a month or so about Macaulay Bonne potentially going back to QPR. We wanted them to sign someone down the left side. They've done that in Dominic Thompson. Now, I don't know if he's going to be the answer. We shall see on that. Tariq Backinson, I know he's not got off to the best of starts so far, but you know they have brought in someone in midfield, and you go through that list of 9 players, first team players who've departed. Beyond Scott Fraser, I don't think there's anyone there that you can make any arguments about. I've just gone through it. How many league starts have they made between them? Holy this season, Holy 0. Toto Enciala 10, Kenlock 0, Bailey Clements 4, Nolan 0, Scott Fraser 14, Coulson 6, Louis Barry 1. So between those 9 players, they haven't had a huge contribution to the first half of this season, have they? So I don't think anyone can say that the squad has been weakened. Has it been improved? Well, we'll see how Thompson and Backinson get on in the coming weeks, won't we? But, you know, I think that we're now at 23, 24 first-team players, depending on whether you include Tyree Simpson. That's a good number to work with for me. And now's not the time to do loads of business. I think it's prudent to wait and let Kieran McKenna really put his stamp on this squad in the summer when he's had a little bit longer just to assess things.
Okay, hold fire on the grade. We'll finish this little roundup with us all giving our grades, perhaps. Rossi, how do you reflect now on the window now it's shut? Do you share any concerns with fans? Fans always want to sign people, don't they, on deadline day? I think if Christian Walton, out of the blue, signed for Ipswich Town on deadline day, we'd all be ecstatic, wouldn't we? Or Macaulay Bonne, we'd be pretty pleased with that. It's because they've already kind of been here, and people that, as Stu says, they're not new and shiny, that people kind of overlook them. But what do you make of the window as a whole?
I'm pretty pleased, to be honest, because at the end of the day, we made 19 signings in the summer. So that's when if we were wondering if we went on to sign players in January, something's gone massively wrong. Unfortunately, the season hasn't gone as well as we're hoping to. But yeah, Walton signed permanently, Premier League quality goalkeeper. Macaulay Bonne is still here. Of course, Backerson and Thompson was probably not two players we thought we were going to bring in, but they have. But overall, I think we've done good. I don't think there's any other players we should have brought in, because at the end of the day, we made 19 signings in the summer. So, but I understand people's concerns. They're feeling it's a bit of an anti-climax going into the deadline day, and a lot of words I'm seeing is a bit meh. But I think, as Stu said, some of these players, we needed to get rid of some of these players. I wouldn't say they're dead wood players, but they are in a way, because they weren't playing games. So, yeah, I think it is what it is. And let McKenna sort of assess the squad, as Stu said, and I'm sure he'll be making signings in the summer. But yeah, we'll just wait and see.
Everything's going to feel meh, though, isn't it? After the summer now. Hutchie, one question to ask you in terms of looking at the window as a whole. At the start of January, we kind of all sat here and said, well, central midfield areas, they don't need to do anything in. They're well stocked there. And that has been where a lot of the activity has actually happened. So is there now an issue, would you say, with Sam Morsey being banned? Lee Evans obviously injured at the moment, and now 3 midfielders going out today. With depth in that area, is that something that worries you? We know Idris has stayed, and he will certainly serve as a backup in that area. But is that something you're concerned about?
Well, I was going to say, as we were going around here, that there's no area of this team that I look at and think they're really light there. Midfield's one of those. There's 5 players for 2 positions. I honestly couldn't see Scott Fraser fitting into a midfield 2 of in a combination of what was there. So I'm not sure that's anyone been lost from there. You're talking about him higher up the pitch. Rakim Harper would have been behind all of those players. John Nolan not a factor at all. I think the Sam Morsey thing clouds it a little bit, doesn't it? Because he is missing for the next 2 games against Gillingham and Doncaster. But beyond that, once he's back, Lee Evans isn't far away by all accounts. Tom Carroll only missed the game at the weekend because his partner was giving birth to their child. So no, if I'm honest, there's no area of there isn't an area of the pitch where I look at it and think you're a bit light here. And I think the reason why I feel positive about how the window's gone is because if we were talking about this on the back of a draw at Sheffield Wednesday rather than a loss, I think that would probably feel quite different. But it's a squad that's got a manager that's kind of taking it somewhere. It feels at the moment. The weekend result aside, it wasn't a squad that we felt needed an injection of something. What did it need? Like, McKenna's taking these players on a sort of a bit of a journey. They're moving a little bit. They've obviously had a really good run of form during January, which obviously ended on Saturday. But I didn't feel like it needed an injection of something.
You just got to look at the bench. McKenna's already got a bit of a selection headache. We talked on previous pods about the ridiculous options that he's got. Clearly, he's, from a man management perspective, he keeps using the term "keep the pot boiling" and wants to make everyone feel like they're involved. If you add to that, you're just creating yourself more problems, aren't you? And Andy's right. I'd ask people that are disappointed a couple of questions. Where do you think this squad is light? Because I go through this squad and you've got adequate cover, I would say, in most positions. And then I would say, who else would you have had? Go through the January transfer window. Look who League One clubs have signed. I see a lot of everyone else has strengthened. Name me a couple of players that have gone to League One clubs that you think Ipswich should have gone for. I'm struggling to see anyone jumping off the page, if I'm completely honest.
Just by way of rounding this up, and we'll come on to Great in a minute, we've talked about obviously what has actually happened. Were there any deals that were kind of in the fire, as it were, and Town were working on?
Ipswich made an inquiry very late in the day about Morgan Rogers, who Ipswich fans might remember from being on loan at Lincoln. He spent the first half of this season at Bournemouth, but has been a bit of an impact sub there. Manchester City recalled him in January with view to getting him out for a bit more game time. Ipswich made a ambitious inquiry just to see whether they could get him down to here, but there was always going to be a high level interest. He's been linked to one stage today. It looked like he was going to Hibernian. Blackpool and Huddersfield have both been sort of heavily linked with him. I think nothing has actually happened with him from the last I've seen, unless it's one that sneaked through post 11 o'clock. I'm not quite sure what's happened there. And the same applies to Jay Matete, who is someone that Ipswich fans have spoken about all week since Sky Sports reported that Ipswich had a bid of £650,000 rejected for him. I think a lot of the excitement around the 20-year-old midfielder was the fact that he played so well at Portman Road for Fleetwood earlier in the season. My understanding was that he was going to Sunderland earlier in the day, that he was a player of interest to Ipswich and has been on their radar for a little while, but it never got to a bid stage. I think McKenna ultimately came to the same conclusion that we did, that he had plenty of midfield options there. The money that was being talked about for someone who's due to be out of contract in the summer put Ipswich off, put McKenna off. I think ultimately McKenna's had the final say on these sort of things. So they said, no, we're not pursuing it. And I was expecting him to sign for Sunderland from the conversations I'd had with people earlier in the day. But again, we've hit 11 o'clock and he doesn't seem to have gone anywhere.
That is still mumbling over. It's 11:47 at the moment, and there seems to be a bit of life in the world of Sunderland's social media scene. So that may well happen in the next few minutes.
They always find a way, don't they?
Jay Matete might have been a good signing for Ipswich Town. He's 20 years of age. He's clearly got real potential there, but I think he would have come in to be sort of the backup to Sam Morsey. Morsey's only going to miss 2 more games now against the division's bottom 2 clubs, and he's the captain. He's going to start, so it would have been quite difficult to, I think, persuade Jay Matete to come and probably sit on the bench, going forward. So Andy looks like he's going to interject. Has that been announced?
No, it's just bubbling. I'm just glad it's bubbling in Sunderland, and there's no late stuff going on down here.
You got a data dashboard there, Hutchie. I like that.
Yeah.
Okay, boys. Let's wrap this up then. The January transfer window is slammed shut for another year. Grade it. I have written something which you can read online now in terms of grading the window. I've graded every single move, and I ended up giving it a B+, the window for Town. I started with an A on the strength of Walton and Bonn, and ended up going B+ just because of the midfield departures and maybe slight concerns there about depth in midfield. Hutchie has since put me in my place and assured me that's fine. But I've committed it now to print, and it's B+ from me. So, Stewie, what are you saying? Is B+ not positive enough?
I'll say B.
Oh,
the Tyree Simpson return doesn't quite sit right with me. A young man who was enjoying his football, 11 goals, and has been recalled because of a contractual issue. It's a shame that it came to that, because I think he's not going to get a huge. He's going to be very much on the fringes, with Ipswich still having Norwood, Bond, Piggott, and Jackson. So that was a bit of a shame for me. And I'm reserving judgment on both Dominic Thompson and Tyreek Backinson. We'll see on those two. Is Thompson a major upgrade on Matt Penny? I don't know. Is Backinson that much better than Rakim Harper? I don't know. So I hope so. And we'll see in the coming weeks, won't we? But a solid B. I'm pretty comfortable with it.
A B, yeah. I mean, Simpson, of all the moves, is the one that really stands out as a waste, isn't it? In terms of what's he going to do now for the rest of the season? He's come from where he's having a really valuable, successful loan spell, and now he's not really going to play for the rest of the season, which is a real shame. A D- in my gradings. Rossi, what would you give the window as a whole?
I think I'm going to follow suit with Stu, I think. Yeah, I think B is a good good grade for this window. Thankfully, Miles Kenlock is gone out on loan, so he won't play for us ever again, thankfully. No more Watsits for him. I'm sure he's got Watsits at Colchester scoring on his debut, of course. I think that's a good grade overall. Very pleased that Walton is our permanent player, and that's what our fans just enjoyed this window, seeing a lone player signed permanently. So, yeah, B.
Okay. Hutch,
Do you
going
think
to make...
sorry to interject. Do you think some of the disappointment is clouded by the fact that Ipswich lost at Sheffield Wednesday,
Absolutely.
which felt like quite a big win quite a big setback at the weekend, and people forget that Ipswich have just won 4 out of their last 6 games without any of these players that have just left the building. I think that has played a big part in how people have reacted to today's.
Yeah, I'm sure it has. Hutchie, how would you grade the window? You're going to make a trio of Bs?
No, Colchester famously do pay in Watsits, from what I've heard. So it's a very useful move. No, I'd go with you actually, Mark. On the slightly more plus, the B plus range, the Walton deal is one I really, really like. It's set them in that position for the next 3 years. Essentially, they're set in goal. They as long as they progress and allow kind of Christian to progress with them, they've nailed down a very important position, I think, for a significant period of time, and that's a really valuable addition in my book. I would venture into the A section, but I too am reserving judgment on the actual new players that we've seen come in. It's unfair to judge Dominic Thompson on his debut at Sheffield Wednesday. I've not been overly impressed with Backinson so far, but again, he's played like without Sam Morsey. I'd like to see what he could do with Sam Morsey. He's played without Lee Evans. He's played alongside Tom Carroll and Idris El Mazouni so far in his first 2 games. So I think it's maybe a bit unfair to judge him as well. So I can't allow those two to add too much positive to my rating. But Walton's a deal that I really, really like.
Major statement as well, isn't it? So 2 B pluses and 2 Bs as a grading for the overall transfer window. And with that, let's move on. The transfer window is closed now until the summer.
I would just add, before we move on from this, that it's always a bit of a risk versus reward decision for how much you, inverted commas, go for it in January. And you'll always get fans sort of saying, where's the ambition? Have we given up on this season already? But Ipswich are 8 points off of 6th, and they're 11 points off 5th. And the season's not dead. Of course it's not. But what would going for it this month represent? What is your slam dunk signing that's going to, almost guarantee that you're going to finish 6th? I don't know if that player or those players existed. So sometimes is it you're not giving up on this season, but you're just being a little bit more prudent and pragmatic, that maybe the summer's the time to do your better business. That's what I would say.
Okay. And with that, let's move on. So as I say, 2 Bs and 2 B pluses. What definitely wouldn't get that higher grading would be the result and the performance at Sheffield Wednesday on Saturday. Hutch, I'm going to start with you here. Toothless. Stewie said it was like a throwback to the Lambert days, shotless and pointless at Hillsborough, and what was a chance to really make a statement in a game like this. Your thoughts, please.
Mate, this seems an absolute lifetime ago. This game. It was a big game. It was one that we didn't think they could really afford to lose. A draw would have been a good result. Sheffield Wednesday go above them, and the manner of it was frustrating. Of course, it was a really, really good combative opening 5 minutes where it looked like we were in for a really good game. Sort of melted away after a pretty sloppy opening goal, and they didn't look like getting back into it from that point on. It's a game we've seen plenty of times before. We've seen it under Paul Lambert. We've seen it under Paul Cook. It's the first time we've really seen it under Kieran McKenna. The Bolton game. The Bolton game had its moments where it didn't look like scoring necessarily, but this one was a bit of a different different level to that. So yeah, very disappointing. A bit of a bubble burst, I think, because we were all feeling so positive about it. But if they weren't playing an almighty game of catch up due to the poor start to the season, I think we'd be able to quite easily brush this one off and as a bad day in the office. But sadly, the handicap they've given themselves means that these bad days at the office mean that little bit more, and that's not McKenna's fault, obviously.
Stu, we've talked numerous times on this podcast about the importance of Wesley James Burns to Ipswich Town. Clearly, they missed him when he was out, and when he's on form, Town are on an entirely different side. He brings something that no one else really does to the side. But if you stop Wesley Burns, if you contain him, do you stop Ipswich Town?
I like you calling him Wesley, like you're his mum telling him off. Yeah, I think there was a big part of that at the weekend. He was well shackled. He was, the times that he tried to sort of get the ball out of his feet and dart past his man, it just didn't happen for him. You take away that threat, and Ipswich become that little bit more. I was going to say predictable, but I guess what Wes Burns does is predictable, but it's just difficult to stop. But it then became sort of possession without that last bit of star quality to unlock the defence. And Ipswich had 65% of the ball, but I think Andy and I both said it didn't feel like a sort of a game where they dominated possession, were not knocking on the door. They would work their way right up to the opposition final third, and then it would quite often end up sort of being turned back again. But McKenna's right in his post-match assessment that goals and the first goal of the game sets the tone of the afternoon in motion, really. And just as Ipswich kind of took control early on at Gillingham, and one goal followed another, and it was dreamland this time. After a pretty decent opening 5 minutes, in which I thought Ipswich won most of their duels and did well, Sheffield Wednesday scored with their first attack. It was a very preventable goal, but once they got that goal in front, it changes the mood of the home crowd. It gives them something to defend. It means that they don't have to go chasing a goal. And Ipswich on this occasion couldn't find the answers.
I don't want to spend ages talking about this game because, as Hutchie says, it feels like a lifetime ago now. Clearly, deadline day is all that people will be interested in. But Rossi, is there anything you want to add from your pitch side position, speaking to fans and stuff after the game? Just a bad day at the office, wasn't it?
Yeah, I'm going to take my hood down now. That's getting a bit sweaty. Deflating. Once again, it's the hope that kills you, after the Wimbledon result. And, of course, it's been a great start under McKenna, but we just second best. Wednesday, they could have scored more than one. They had a few really good chances. Load of possession, but just never looked like scoring. I think we could have been still in Hillsborough now, and I don't think we'll be scoring a goal. Just a bad day at the office, and in a way, brush this game aside. But then also, it's now we've gone back to 8 points, and now we've got to move on to Gillingham on the weekend, and now hoping other teams slip up again. But I'm still trying to get over like Gillingham. They lost 7-2 on the weekend. Mad.
Yeah, and they're going to have a former Ipswich Town managerial candidate, aren't they, in charge when they come to Portman Road this weekend. Neil Harris got the job today, amongst other things happening. We'll talk about that obviously later in the week when we look ahead to Gillingham. But Hutchie, before we finish Sheffield Wednesday, clearly is one issue that we have to address. The lucky trainers. Lucky no more. Stu, I'm sure I remember you tweeting something after the game about some kind of announcement or...
Well, people will say that the lucky trainers streak are over, burn them, throw them in the bin, scatter their ashes wherever. I've seen various comments.
Yeah.
I don't know if their lucky streak is officially over, because if you remember on the last podcast, I promised everybody that Andy would wear them. His concern was they're not driving trainers. And I said, don't worry, I'll drive to Hillsborough. I'll take one for the team. Andy has a 15-20 minute drive to my house. He pulled up. I said, get yourself out from behind the wheel. I'm driving. We swapped over. I drove. We stopped about halfway up. To my horror, as we exited the vehicle to go and get something to eat, I glanced down. He wasn't wearing them.
What?
He was not wearing them. I said, "What are you doing?" Don't worry, I've got them in the boot. I said, "Well, that's it. You've ruined the magic now. They had to be worn from day one. From minute one today." So he went and got them. He changed them. But I worry that first sort of 2 hours of the day in which they weren't worn,
it's broken.
Affected their power.
Absolutely weakened the spell, Hutchie.
Yeah, I think it's time to hang them up. If I'm honest, I think the run's come to an end. It's time to hang them up. I posted a particularly poignant.
I thought it was very moving. Very
Very.
moving. Yeah,
That's what I thought. I thought it would move people.
Mm.
Don't cry because it's over. Smile because it happened. They've done their bit. They've got this team under McKenna off to a good start. They couldn't carry them all the way. They're a pair of shoes. It doesn't work like that. They've done their bit. They've got it going. I think it's I'm not getting rid of them. Like, I like them, and they're not just going to go in the bin. You'll still see them. They'll come to games. They'll be a fond reminder of a good time that was had by all. But I think it's time to let Kieran take this one from here, and it's up to the team now. The armbands are coming off. They've got it from here.
You've done your bit. Cole Fuller, I know, still claiming that the Marcus Stewart lucky socks are intact in terms of their streak. So yeah, there we go, boys. Transfer deadline day discussed. Sheffield Wednesday briefly discussed. Trainers discussed and discarded off to the trainer shop in the sky. Although you will still see Andy Warren wearing them around Portman Road and other grounds. The only thing
got other trainers as well, mate. Don't worry.
Oh no, absolutely.
Got the Monsters Inc. ones to come out at some
point. Oh yes, absolutely. Save those for a big game though, mate. We don't want to waste them for Gillingham at home. You want them for a big game. We should also mention, of course, Rossi, before we go today, Ipswich Town ladies had a huge win in the FA Cup. You were in Newcastle yesterday, and they're making some more FA Cup history. Bring us up to speed.
Yeah, joint record last 16 position, getting closer and closer to Wembley. The dream could happen. They got Southampton in the draw, which is a bit anticlimaxing a little bit. It's like, Southampton, our league. You had the likes of Arsenal, Chelsea, Man United, Man City we could have got. But then it's winnable,
winnable tie.
Yeah, quarterfinals. Good crowd at Newcastle. Just under 3,000 there, which is good. The Geordies, because I love their football. Wasn't a great game, but a good goal won it for us. But no, good win and record-breaking history again for the club. And yeah, there'll be a Track the Girls Talk podcast, little plug there later in the week. So tune in for that.
I speculated, Rossi, that given it, I think it's on February 27th and Town are away the Saturday before, I speculated, why not play it at Portman Road, the game? Did not like that. A lot of people came back at me and went, shut up. We want it at the Gold Star ground. So I've been told. Is that right? The girls just enjoy playing at the Gold Star. They don't want to play at a big ass stadium.
I think once again, I think if it was at a Gold Star, that would be rocking. Be good crowd there. When it goes to Portman Road, we can maybe get 7,000-8,000 there, but it still feels like I don't know. For me, it feels like a pre-season training game. But at least at the Gold Star, non-league ground, Felixstowe love that. And it was just like this week just gone in the Newcastle ground. It was rocking there, great atmosphere. So come down, play at Felixstowe, have a good atmosphere. Hopefully one day they'll play at Portman Road, but when it's a big cup tie, you want that crowd to be that 12th man and all that jazz.
Okay, well, I stand corrected. Thanks for filling me in there. But keep an eye out. Southampton, isn't it, the next round? A winnable tie, and then who knows? Who knows what could happen from there?
They've beaten Southampton this season, haven't they, already?
They have, yeah. They have in the league. Unfortunately, they also lost against them in the League Cup. So this is the trilogy. So hopefully they'll get the win and their quarterfinals. Women's team or an Ipswich Town team actually winning cup competitions, which is fantastic. I saw Hutch's tweet on Sunday saying a town team actually win cup games. Could we have a team in the quarterfinals? Ooh.
Keep an eye out for that then. Tractor Girls Talk coming to you on the KOA channel later this week. Boys, it's just ticking past midnight now. We are officially into Tuesday morning. How have you found, as we head off to bed, I'm sure, how have you found this transfer deadline day, Stewie? It's a tough old day, isn't it? You're very busy boys on days like this.
Well, you say it's tough. It's not going down the mines, is it?
Oh, here we go. Yeah.
Let's be honest.
I was trying to praise you. Right, it's piss easy. It was a joke what you do for a living.
They're long days, but they're good fun as well, and it's nice that we've had some stuff to actually talk about for once.
Excellent, Hutchie. This is your time to shine. Days like this, you've been like a whirling dervish today. Are you looking forward to having a little lie down? You're going to go and watch some American football?
Yeah, I am actually.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to go and watch a little bit of what I didn't manage to get through of one of the games from last night. I do know the result though, but I will still watch it. Yeah, need to stretch my fingers out a little bit. Tough on the old fingers, but like Stu says, it's not like going. It isn't going down the mines. Just like going to the supermarket wearing a mask isn't like going down the mines either. But I find myself coming out of the shop and kind of ripping it off the second you exit the shop, gasping for air.
Like you've just finished a 12-hour surgery. Yeah.
No, I haven't. I've just been in there for 20 minutes to get some bread, some crumpets, and some appetizer. But that's just the way it is. It's a funny old job.
I might go and stretch my fingers in a minute as well. We've all deserved that.
Sounds like a euphemism to me. Anyway,
an anticlimax, to be fair.
It always has to take it that one step too far.
All right, then. Let's call an end to it here, then, shall we? 10 minutes past midnight. We're talking about stretching fingers out. I think it's enough. We'll take our leave. Ipswich Town's transfer deadline business is done for January. We've talked all about it. We've also talked about the defeat to Sheffield Wednesday, Hutchie's lucky train is coming to an end, and the brilliant success of the Tractor Girls. Looking forward to the next FA Cup game against Southampton. I hope you enjoyed the pod. Please support our sponsors, Manscaped. Use the code KOA at manscaped.com for 20% off and free delivery. And also follow us across all our social medias at Kings of Anglia on YouTube, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. We're all off for a lie down to stretch our fingers. Have a great start to the week. And we'll see you again later on this week.